crusader and say, I'm carrying a governor.
Which is possibly not his first time.
Which is possibly not his first time, but it's just we are guessing. That's why I say the man in Benin, air traffic controller in Benin, should be commended for courage. He exhibited professional courage by saying, insisting that what should be done, should be done. If you even go to the Akure issue, that you didn't a flight plan, no manifest. You can't fly without a manifest. We talk about this manifest. Yeah. This is in public domain. That's why I can give it to Channel. 2 flights were there. Tambuwa's aircraft and the one that carried Amechi. This is the manifest for Tambuwa's aircraft. All names written. This is the manifest for Amechi's aircraft, governor and others. This is not a manifest.
But when you read some of these things and you know that these are preliminary things.
You can look at it. It is in public domain.
Because if you talk about a flight plan and a manifest, these are elementary things. These are basic things that should have been done. So when you read it, you just tend to look, no, it can't be. Maybe there's more to this. But this is the reality. And you see Pilot 2 say they've flown for many years. And by the way, when it was even commented, there was no such thing as flight plan. It was talking about aerodrome and landing fees. And you just kind of shudder and say, look, this is unbelievable.
NAMA does not collect aerodrome fees. It's not the responsibility of NAMA or landing fees. It's responsibility of FAN. You see, it's for us to separate these things. People don't know. NAMA has no powers to ground an aircraft. NAMA does not ground any aircraft. All NAMA tells you is meet the procedures and protocols and you take off. The agency that can ground an aircraft with absolute responsibility is NCAA. If you go to any airport and you don't pay fees, landing fees and whatever, and NAMA says, look, you have to, FAN, if you pay, you go. If you don't pay, you don't go. Because that is what is their entitlement. Okay? If you look at the acts, NAMA manages airspace, and then if you are going through the airspace, this is the fee you are supposed to pay. But it's not even fees that is the issue here. It's issue. Follow the procedures. We need a flight plan. We need a manifest. You see, at some certain levels, you don't need to. Maybe once you come into a zone, controlled zone, where NAMA has to take you, hand you over from this point to this point, and check the way you're moving, you have to fly a flat plan. Otherwise, what will a NAMA officials use to follow your aircraft, to monitor your aircraft, to make sure you don't go into turbulent weather, to make sure that you don't go on collision, to make sure about safety, or if the aircraft is lost, to know where it is. Yeah. These are standard procedures.
Well, we'll also talk about our radar system when you talk about making sure we go on a different route or on a particular route. Looking at these flight plans here, I realize that we have names on this with the speaker, Tambuwa. And right on this other one, we have Honorable Rotimi Amechi, then ADC, Chief Security Officer, Chief Detail, and 5 others. How is this supposed to have been written when you say this is not correct compared to what we have here with the aircraft carrying the speaker and others?
You can see the one carrying the speaker was clear. Every name of the passenger on board is there. It's written on the letterheaded paper of the operating company. You can look at this. It's written on the letterheaded paper of NAMA. So the person got to Akure, he didn't even send it ahead. If NAMA had any other motive, political motive like people want to interpret it, they won't give him their paper to write a flight plan. He wrote its manifest on NAMA letterheaded paper, which he got from the Akure airport. That's not what it should be. It should be properly written, and it's handwritten. Tambuwa's own is typed and sent. You can see Tambuwa's own is 25th. His own is 26th on the spot. So it is for us to take out the political interpretation in this and say, are people doing the right thing they should do? Also, the pilot who did that of Rotimi Amechi, is to blame. It's unfortunate. I think that at this point in time, if I were, like I say in NAMA, I will petition NCAA. Well, unfortunately, NCAA today, who is the policeman of the agency, has no substantive head. Almost 4 months after the last one left,
You know, that's part of what people
yes,
say.
that's
That
the,
we have to put the right people in the right places. Let the professionals tackle some of these things.
Yes, that's that. I agree perfectly. The man who is acting cannot exercise, no matter how brave he is, cannot exercise all the authorities that a substantive person will exercise. The president has sent in a name since it's over 3 months now. The problem today, we are becoming a laughingstock globally. That a country like Nigeria, that was vibrant a few months ago, does not have a substantive head of the regulatory agency, which is number one, which will, in terms of regulation, in terms of everything, that's the policeman of the industry. If the name submitted, if the Senate doesn't consider that person appropriate, the state should long ago have said, we don't consider him, give us another name. But now, nothing is heard. Nothing is heard. We don't have a substantive head. All these reports should go to NCAA for appropriate sanctions. NCAA has sanctions for all these infractions, by pilots particularly. These problems that has been were caused by pilots, and immediately it's caused by pilots. AIDS, without an iota of knowledge, starts talking about it.
You know,
and that's the problem.
Comment a little more on this, because today it's OAS. The other day it talked about caboting. And you look at some of these operators, these corporate operators, and you ask yourself, what really is going on here? These are people who are supposed to understand the professional implication of all of this and practice stricto sensu according to what's required. But now if people are beginning to have political interpretation into all of this, that's worrisome.
It's very worrisome, and it's something we should run away from. If the global aviation industry finds out that we are beginning to give what happens, professional things that happen, political interpretations, sometimes far away, they may not sit where they are sitting to properly analyze. They will take it hook, line, and sinker and begin to think that there's political interference in regulation and practices in the aviation industry. That will not be good for our country. But sometimes, you know, in the past, like I say, have people gotten away? Yes, a few things have happened in the past when the laws are not being enforced. What is happening now in these last few days, in this present administration, the laws are being enforced at the airport. Time was when a special assistant, a special advisor on the president, not this president, went through the airport. He had all the protocols, but his aides carrying arms refused to be checked, refused to drop, to follow the procedures, and wanted to board the aircraft. The airport manager then, an excellent, one of the best managers FAN had, I think it was Okuiga. The staff, they were running around this aid. He told them, stop running, go and tell the pilot that somebody who has refused to be checked is carrying arms. And the pilot ordered everybody out of the aircraft to be checked, and they were checked. That special advisor eventually became Minister of Aviation. The first thing he did, he transferred that Okuiga to Yola. That was the best manager he had. Transferred him to Yola, where there was nothing happening, as a kind of vengeance. When you see that the officials, they run away, they don't want to act. That's why I say when an officer takes the rules to the end where he should be, that officer should be encouraged under a political situation, because he's exposing himself to that kind of thing.
Would you also ask that NAMA also do some investigation into what exactly has been happening? Because for a pilot who claims that he has this amount of years of experience and has been flying in Nigeria for 7 years, not to know the most basic things to do, or refuses to do them in the name that he's flying a governor, does raise, eyebrows as to what exactly could have been transpiring in the 7 years that this man has been flying in Nigeria. That, what will give room for that kind of audacity?
I don't know what is likely to give room to that audacity is what maybe he said that maybe it's been happening before, and this time he decided also it should continue, but he now met brick wall.
Yes.
The agency that is supposed to look at this is NCAA. That's the policeman of the industry. It's not NAMA. NAMA has to look at the airspace and whatever happens should report to NCAA. That's why I say if I were in NAMA, these two pilots I would have reported it to NCAA, awaiting sanctions.
NAMA cannot do any self-cleansing process?
No, NAMA can do a self-cleansing. Self-cleansing is with its staff internally.
Yes.
Not with the external this thing. But let me tell you this, sometimes you dissipate so much energy looking back. the thing to say that, well, these are the rules, they must be stuck to. Whatever happened in the past, you display so much energy, you say, oh, this happened in the past or that happened in the past. Sometimes we know what happened in the past, whether